Okay, welcome back. What we've done is we've completed our edge mat just here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to create some light wrap using that same mat. Okay, so let's come over here. Let's come to our original ID mask and dilate in our own nodes. So let's look at the end of this chain, Control-Shift-Click on this one. And that's our mat that's been dilated, feathered and eroded. Okay, so let's duplicate those two again. Control-Shift-D to keep their connection intact. And bring it over here and you'll see my edge mat chain that we created in the previous one all grouped together just to keep them tidy. So let's bring these over here. So basically what we're going to do is going to create a mat that basically just has a feathered inside. So basically we want the background image data, the pixels of the background, to be feathering and blurring just inside this mat, not over into the black, just inside this mat. So it looks like the light of the background is wrapping around the edges of the model once we put it back over the top. So how do we do that? Well, let's use this mat again. So I'm going to use a color mix node and I'm going to mix the mat together with itself, just like we did before. Let's multiply it. And what we get, if we look at this, is nothing. Control-Shift-Click. So we need to invert one of them. So let's go color invert, like we did last time. And let's invert one. So what we end up with is a similar thing to our edge mat. But what happens then, if we go filter, blur, and blur one of these mats. So let's try this. And what we get is the effect we want. So let's go fast Gaussian, make our rendering times quicker. So let's make this 50 and 50. And what we get basically is a mat that's saying everything that's black, don't do anything. So not only the outside is black, but the core of this is black. But the white then is defining where this light wrap. If you imagine now this is light wrapping around the edge of the model, this is going to tell our background where to blur over the top, creating the illusion of a light wrap. Okay. Now, the only thing I don't like about this is it's wrapping around the whole model. So we're going to have to come back and fine tune that later. But fundamentally, we've got our light wrap intact. Okay. So what we can do now is if we come down to where our original composite is here, we need to use this to put another version of our background image over the top of this, but only where this tells it to, similar to our edge blend. So let's move these dots around a bit. So we've got a bit of room. So I'm going to add another mix node, so add color mix node. We're going to have our original composition just here, Control-Shift-Click, plugged into the bottom. We're then going to take the output of our original background image right over here and plug it into the top of this mix node. So it's basically mixing the original background image over the top of this. So if Control-Shift-Click, we just see the background image again. And if we fade this back and forth, look, the fact defines how these mix together. So I can fade in the background over the top, look, and you can see the background appearing through our model and it goes semi-transparent. Okay. So basically we want to plug our edge mat into this factor. So it basically defines where the background should appear based on the mat. So let's turn that on. You can now see, look, our background is blurring or fading in at the edges based on this mat up here. But the problem is it's coming through as perfect pixels. We want it to seem blurred and glowing. So what we need to do is before we plug this mat, before we plug our original image into here, we want to put a blur in between it coming from the image itself being composited over the top. We need to put a blur in here. So let's add a filter blur. Let's plug it in there. Let's go fast Gaussian. Let's try blurring these up 50 as well, see what happens. What you'll see now is we're getting this light wrap effect. Now light wrap not only mixes, it screens, it makes it brighter there at the edges. So now look, that is wrapping round the light of the background pixels into here. Okay. Now it might be that we've blurred that too much. Let's try 20. 20. See the output of the screen mode as it is now. And you can see the light is wrapping around the edges of our model. Now it's probably going too far. So what we need to do is, before this map plugs in, we need something that's going to control the amount of wrap. Okay, now the blur obviously does that, but also we want to control its input, its impact with a more manageable control. So to do that, we're going to add a converter math node. So this is going to do a bit of maths in between. We're going to multiply it by itself. So if you imagine 0.5 is 0.5 of yourself. So if we look at this now, it's gone half dimmer. So multiply it by 1, that's times in itself by its, by 1. Yeah? So there it is. There it is multiplied by the value of 1, it stayed the same. If we do it 2, make its input brighter. So if we come here and view from this node, you'll see our light wrap is more pronounced now. So this is now the control for our light wrap. So we can say, right, actually, let's just make it 0.2. And we've now got very subtle light wrap. Okay? Which works quite nicely. Now, if we want to tighten up the amount of blur here before it gets multiplied, so control how much this is wrapping round, if we want it just to be round the edges and not so much in here, then we might want to put a curves adjustment before it's multiplied to make the blacks blacker and the whites whiter. So let's go add color RGB curves, plug that in here, and let's do our normal S curve. Let's make the whites whiter. So let's view this at this point. So we're making the whites whiter. And then we're making the blacks blacker. And you tighten up that light wrap now. So let's bring that down even further. So there's no light wrap in the center at all, but all around the edges. Then it can be multiplied and controlled. Then we can see its effect just here. And you can see the light wrap is really pronounced just around the edges. Okay, so we can now just continue to control our light wrap with this math node set to multiply. So go 1, and this will be fully on. There you go. Now the other thing is, this light that's being screened over the top, if we fit it again, is not far off, but it's a little bit cool compared to our background color here, this warm orange. So what we can do is, before our background, after our background has been blurred, that's creating this wrap, let's warm it up a bit. So we need something that controls the color and the saturation of it. So let's go hue saturation value. Let's come here. Let's view from this point, and I want you to keep an eye. Actually, let's view it at this node, but control it from here. So we're seeing the final effect. Let's bring this down a bit. So this is our control node. I want you to keep an eye on here. We can saturate it up. So let's make it 3 saturation. You can see that's saturated our light wrap now. That's too much. So let's just go 2, see what that does. And that's something a bit more interesting there. Kind of makes more sense. Let's warm it up a bit. So the hue is here. So if we dial it down in this direction, that's kind of made it blue. Let's take it all the way to the end. Let's see where that goes. This is going to be very much an eyeballing exercise until we get the right color. So there we are. Let's find cyan. So let's come down here. So it's going to be somewhere around this middle area that we find the right color. So let's go more yellow. So there's 0.5 where we were before. So maybe we just go a smudge below it and that'll make this warmer slightly. Yeah, too warm. So it's really small increments. There we go. Our multiply value might make 0.5 for our amount of light wrap. And we've then got a subtle light wrap. So if you want to see the difference of this before and after, let's select our screen mode, go mute. So that's without light wrap. That's with light wrap. Without. With. Okay, it just gives the illusion that the light is wrapping around here a bit. We're controlling its value here. The amount it blurs around here, and it might be that we just control our curves a bit. So we'll keep our white value intact, but let's just bring our blacks up a bit so it just wraps around a little bit more. There you go. So basically this curves control is controlling the amount it wraps into the model. And that looks kind of nice like that. So let's mute our, let's zoom in again. I want you to focus on this area here. Mute the light wrap. So mute this screen node. That's before. This is with the light wrap. And it gives you that sense of interaction with its environment. So with the edge blur as well, and the light wrap, we're getting something that seems to be interacting with this background we've put it over the top of. Now the problem is the last problem we've got is our light wrap is appearing in some places where we don't want it to appear. And that would be around these feet here where there's not direct light hitting these areas. It's only really around the top end. So to control that, we need to have a mask that says only really appear here. So if we come to the final output of our mask, which is just here, or actually our original mask, which is just here, yeah, we want it to say, look, only have this kind of effect be black off, in other words, from about here. Now what would be great is if we went to add distort, we could see if we could use some form of crop. So let's try that. Let's put a crop node in there and let's crop it upwards. Nothing seems to be happening. Let's crop it down. No, nothing seems to be happening, so what's going on? Well, that's not doing the job we want it to. Okay, so if that's not working, let's plug this back into here. What else can we do? Well, let's have a look. Let's view it from here. Let's add distort. Let's see if there's something else we could use. In fact, I don't think there's anything good. So we've got no nodes to our disposal, as it seems clear. So what we're going to have to do is a mask. So I'm going to introduce a bit of masking. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this to image editor view. We're going to use our image that we've got here. And what we're going to do is use this to draw a mask. So down here, you can have different views look. View is the standard. I'm going to change this from view to mask. So into the mask viewport. And we're going to create a new mask layer just here. And then what we're going to do is we can just go right click around here. So control right click creates a point, and if we go anti-clockwise, let's draw, and we can click and drag to create a Bezier curve look. And you can say, right, roughly these are the areas I want to be masked. So, and I've gone Problem is I've gone clockwise and you can see the handles are on the inside. That's not what we want. So let's delete this mask, press the minus up here, create another mask, and let's go control click. So control right click. We can just do a rough mask just to say these are the areas we want to have light wrapping around this section here, say. Now to close this up, we just come down to mask at the bottom and we go toggle cyclic. That closes that mask. And what we've got is a mask now called mask down here, look. Let's label it bot mask. And now we can change our view back to our node editor and we can bring a mask input into here, into the factor of here. So let's go add input mask. Let's bring that up. Oop, where's that gone? I've lost my mask. I dragged it off the screen. So input mask. Let's change the mask input to the thing called bot mask. And let's plug it into our factor. Now that's basically saying do that here, but it's doing it before the multiply. So why is that doing that? So what we need this to be let's plug it into. That's not working as we thought. It's saying have this as a mask, but the rest doesn't seem to be black. So let's plug that in there again. Okay. What else can we do? Because this is still going to make this blurry as it currently stands. So where else could we add this? Well, maybe we have to multiply this against this matte a little bit to get rid of this black. Let's see. So let's take an output from this matte. So let's go add color mix node. We're going to put some black in here. I'm going to plug that in there. Let's plug that in there and see what we get. It's the opposite way around, so let's switch that around. Let's make this black. Yes, we've got it. So basically what we've done is taken the output of our old mask and we've used this mask to blend this mask against black. Now this could be plugged into there. So let's change that. We've boosted it, look. Then to here. Then to here. And it means that our light wrap is only appearing around this top area here and then fading off as it goes down. Now if we wanted to blur that mask a little bit, so it's blur this bottom edge so it's not a hard fall off, we can just come in and go add filter blur, plug that between it being blended here. Let's view from this node and we're just looking to soften this edge here. So let's go fast Gaussian again, speed up these render times as much as possible. And let's just soften that fall off like so. So let's go 100, 100. And you can see we've got this fall off now of the edge blur. So let's go 50 and let's go 50. That's better. Let's come and see it now when it's screened back on. Well, it's looking good. So if we mute this again, let's just mute this. M for mother to mute that node. Light wrap off. Light wrap on. let's zoom this out. You can see we've got this nice blended edge from our edge mat, and now we've got this interaction between the background light and our foreground object. Mute it. Back on. And we've got this interaction, and we can still control the amount of that interaction with this multiply control here. So let's go 0.3. You can see that's quite subtle, but just giving enough suggestion that we've got the light wrapping around the edges of our model. And that's how to create light wrap. So we've created edge blend and we've created light wrap. So let's put all these together again. So this is our end node, the final one in the chain. That's plugged into here. So let's close all these up. Let's tidy it all up. So all the things that are basically creating our light wrap. Are here. There we go. So let's bring all these things together. Let's put them in line. Let's lasso them all. Actually, let's lasso. There we go. Let's come down to node. Let's make group. Let's tab out. Come to properties here. Call this light wrap. Let's give it a color. Tick that. And let's make what says light wrap. Oh, it's probably yellow. Seems kind of appropriate in this context. There we go, and that's our light wrap. In fact, I missed some elements here, look, that create our light wrap as well. So they could have been added in there, but it's not the end of the world. Zoom out. Nice tidy node structure, but behind these groups lies more and more nodes, and we have now created our finished composite. And that's, we've got a dead node up here. Let's delete it out. And that's basically, we can save this out as an image now. So if we go back to 2 views, this is our output at the end, just here. We can just go image, save as image, have no compression, and save it with a name as a PNG. Save as image, and that's our composite finished. And the problem is, look, it's viewing from the wrong end of the chain. So let's make sure that we're viewing right from the end of the chain before you do render that image out. So let's come here and let's Control Shift click. That's one thing you've got to make sure with the Node Wrangler, that it's viewing from the right end of the chain, which it is now. Now we can go image, save as image, and we're done. Thank you. Hopefully that was helpful. I know it's a bit long, but it's quite a painstaking process, but hopefully the logic behind it kind of makes sense. Thank you.